Okay, so the first value I want to bring to your attention is authenticity. Authenticity to the beholder means something entirely different to the next person. So this is why it's very, very important to understand who you are. And we're going to use this process to do so. Authenticity is all around us, is how we identify ourselves as a part of, one part of a group, one part of a culture, one part of a society. It's your uniqueness, your originality, your flair that brings in the authenticity. And we hear it all the time, but there are many parts of us that are like those who raised us. There's a lot of similarities with those we grew up with that negates what authenticity often represents. The definition of authenticity: of undisputed origin, genuine. It comes from the Greek word authentikos, which is principle or genuine, done in a way that faithfully resembles the original. So my first question would be, and you don't have to keep track, you don't have to write this down, but it would be great to. It would be great to see what you think of you and what you think of the values that are presented. Are you in alignment with authenticity? With your authenticity? Do you know what that is? Do you know what makes you original? Do you know what your traits are? Do you know how you've used them thus far? Is it present in your everyday reality? Have you been able to identify evident circumstances, the evidence, the factual information, being able to see it, being able to touch it, being able to know it in your reality? How do you know you're being authentic? What are your boundaries with this value, for better or for worse, helpful or as a hindrance? And in what ways? What can you see outside of you from a third person perspective about your authenticity? When has it been betrayed? Or when has you being authentic been considered a contradiction to something you're doing? When has that value been undermined by your own actions? We're hoping to alleviate the inclusion of others with this. This is a self-discovery. This is a mindful experience to be able to see how you can integrate and acknowledge this value as your own. What does it mean to you? When have you seen yourself presenting authenticity? How is it evident in your environment? How do you identify when it's something that defies or contradicts your value? What instances, past, present, undermine what it means for you to be authentic? What have you allowed? What has transpired to make you feel, to encourage you to feel that you're not authentic? We're taking accountability here, and we're looking at self. Then we can look in relation to others. When have you alone decided against your authenticity and betrayed that value? Because that emotion that surrounds that is the byproduct of what you value not being valued. You get me? When you know what contradicts your value of being authentic, then you can better understand how to strengthen it. Every chance you get, every chance you notice you're being authentic, acknowledge it. This is my authenticity. This is me being authentic. This is my originality. This is who I am, separate from, not without. This is what makes me me. This is my authentic spark, creation, originality. This is faithful to my actual inner soul, my inner being, who I really am. This is a representation of that. That's something that is unique to everyone. This is why we all think differently. This is why no two people are exactly the same, not even identical twins. There's an authenticity that is buried deep, deep, deep inside of you. And you know when you're in alignment with it, but it's clear to know when you've betrayed your own value, undersold your own value for whatever reason, for whatever result, for whatever expectation, for whatever outcome. This value, this particular value, is a key component to self. Forgiveness. Forgiveness of oneself for not always holding this value in high regard. To not understand what authenticity is up until this point. To not have thought about it with that much measure. It is easy to identify the times where you were not authentic, but also that byproduct I was speaking on, the emotionality that comes with not honoring that value. Can you forgive yourself at this moment for not having a clear understanding, to just acknowledge that you did not clearly understand that that was a value as you were still getting to know yourself, as you were still getting to learn yourself? Can you forgive yourself for not always having been authentic? When you were a child and you did not know how to tie your shoes, once you learned, you get held accountable when they're not tied, because now you know. Kids who wet the bed, once they have been potty trained, any occurrence after that where they're wetting the bed, they're held accountable because now they know. You touched a pot on the stove once and you got burned. Now you know what that is. Now you know. You have a clearer understanding. You have the wisdom and the experience to understand now because you have learned it. Now it's time to implement it. This is no different. This is a value. We experience pain to save our lives. If you don't understand, we have these nerves, we have this body, we have these surfaces that gauge our environment. When something is too hot, it'll warn you. This shit can burn you to death. If you have an environment that's too cold, it will warn you and it will hurt and it will sting. Frostbite. This will kill you if you don't get to warmth. There's a fine balance. So pain is useful, and we're going to use that to turn it into power, to transcend what byproducts of deterring and undermining our values really means. So when we start with this authenticity and you have this awareness of it, there's nothing that can tell you better than you. A self check. Check yourself. Is this my authentic representation? Does this show my originality? Is this what I want to be represented as? Is this authentic to who I originally am? And you always have that soul recognition, whether you acknowledge it fully and consciously being aware of it. You have this intricate part of you that will send off warning signals within your body when something is betraying a value. So authenticity, we're going to start with that one. We're really going to just get into a whole lot of them, really. I was going to cuss, but I couldn't find a word appropriate because this is some really positive shit. Okay. So authenticity, I want you to hold that, make space for that on an everyday basis. Identify 3 times, at least 3 times, when you're doing something that is authentic to your soul core essence. These are core values, right? So in the core of you, in the very pits of you, is this authentic? Identify 3. And if you come up on occurrences that are not, identify those as well, because this is what's going to help you strengthen the actions, the thoughts, and the situations that are aligned with your authenticity, and it will start to squeeze out the experiences that are not. Now you have a tool to identify from your definition for your own sacred space what authenticity is. And that's the beginning of the beginning, I guess. So I won't say never, I'll say this this is a moment I've been waiting for. I'm I learn by putting my hands on shit. Just got my science kit in the mail, and I'm really excited because now what I'm learning will stick. Now what I'm learning I can do. Now what I'm learning I can see. I can hear it. I can know it a whole lot better. So just try this one on for size and tell me what works for you and what doesn't. This is your channel, and I'm a channel, a conduit to help you channel the best version of you. This is my service. So take into account an occurrence during the day. Over the next couple of days, I'm going to be dropping more of these core values, and we're going to get into it. Get into it with Aura.